So here's my review of Barbenheimer. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but we all do. You know, there'll be this like TV show or movie where everybody you know says it's the greatest thing ever, but you just don't want to watch it. And maybe it's because you don't like the director, or you don't like an actor in it, or you just don't like the idea of the movie, but you just really don't want to watch it. Interesting thing about Barbie is the reaction from the right, where they're just trashing it and they're saying it's anti-man. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Barbie is the one movie, more than any other movie, that has a right to be anti-man. You can't go to Barbie and expect to see the Fast and the Furious, you idiot. And I even said to somebody, you know, I'm not going to watch this Barbie movie for the same reason I didn't play with Barbie dolls, right? Like, it's just not my thing. I don't want to see the color pink for 2 hours, right? And nobody's saying you have to watch Barbie any more than they're saying you had to play with Barbie dolls when you were a kid. You're perfectly allowed to not be into it. In terms of the Oppenheimer, I've lost all faith in Christopher Nolan after he did that Reverse Bullet movie. No, I lost all faith in him before that. When he did the Interstellar, where it is explained that the secret of interdimensional space and wormholes is love. But I lost faith in him even before I found out that the secret is love. It should be consciousness, by the way, not love. But no, when I watched that Leonardo DiCaprio movie with all the like dream within a dream within a dream, and you realize like, well, the main thing is just that it had a love story inserted into it, very, very like a very artificial love story in there. And there was a very artificial, these chase scenes with guns, which were also, and like, it was all very artificial. And then that's when I realized, oh, I see. So Nolan is putting a love story in so that he can get the women to come see the movie. And he's putting the chase scenes with the guns so that he can get the people who like action movies to come see his movie. And it's just like, okay, dude, you're a sellout, and you're not that clever, and you're really just doing puzzles. And a puzzle is not a story, it's a puzzle. I even lost respect for Christopher Nolan when I saw The Dark Knight, because it was just like, this is just a mess. It doesn't make any sense. And it's just trying to be as confusing as possible for the sake of it, right? And like, it doesn't make sense that the Joker planned this out. Wait, he put a gun to his own head and told Harvey Dent to kill him, to flip a coin, but yet he had all these plans for what he was going to do afterwards? That doesn't make any sense. And his whole idea about making Batman realistic, like, come on, there's nothing realistic about Batman. Like, that you're turning Batman into the most boring guy. Like, he might as well be wearing a SWAT team outfit. Why even have bat ears on the bat costume? You know, and in typical Nolan fashion, when The Dark Knight ended, he said, like, oh, sometimes we need a hero, but we don't need... A hero isn't what we need right now, but it's what we want. I forget exactly what it was, and who really cares, but it made no sense. I remember sitting there going, that doesn't... What the hell is that supposed to mean? Anyhow, this duology, these two movies, add up to 5 hours, basically. I have no interest in these movies. I'm going to watch them because they were a phenomenon. But I'm going to be watching them in increments, maybe 20-minute increments. Let's see how long I can do it. And I'll report back after. So I'll report on, I'll say, okay, I'm at minute 20, I'm at minute 30 of this, blah, 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 blah. And it's just going to be, I assume it's going to be, it'll probably be good, but it just feels like it's going to be hell. Well, I guess I'll note the minute mark, and I'll only make comments when I think, you know, there's a comment to be made. So maybe 20 minutes will go by, and I'll be like, oh, now we're at 40 minutes. So the first scene of the Barbie movie is like a parody of the monkey scene in 2001, which diminishes the artistic level of this whole movie. You shouldn't be copying other movies. But I guess this thing was never trying to be a masterpiece. So okay, fine. Now we know it's not a masterpiece. Yeah, and it's starting out where it's as I feared, where it's gonna be like the Lego Movie, where everything's just extra fluorescent and like over. It's gonna overwhelm my visuals. So that's fine. It's just hard. It's just hard to take in. So then Ken gets mad at another Ken, and he goes, "You know what? I could beat you off, right? Like a pun, because they're at the beach. I could beat you off." And they're like, "Oh, you can't beat him off. Oh, well, if anybody's gonna beat him off, so like beat him off, right?" So that was the joke that didn't work. So I'm at 13 minutes, and it's basically exactly the same as the beginning of the Lego movie where they're just like everything is awesome, and you just see how everybody's just like so happy and everything works perfectly, and they make all these little jokes here and there. I mean, I think they even made the same joke in the Lego movie where they're like, every day's great. Like yesterday was great, and tomorrow's gonna be great, and the next day's gonna be every day is just awesome, and everything's awesome. And I think they actually took the exact same joke from the Lego movie. And then they started playing Cyndi Lauper's "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," which is very appropriate. I used to work in a nightclub, and they would play whenever they played "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." All the girls in the whole nightclub would go crazy. They would just be in heaven. In brackets, they would be so drunk, and then they would take their high heels off, and they'd be dancing on broken glass because they don't realize that it's a nightclub and there's broken glass on the floor. So what starts the whole plot is that Barbie asks, she's not thinking, but she goes, "Do you guys ever think about death?" And she doesn't know why she said it. So that's what is going to start the whole plot, obviously. But I doubt that they're ever going to explain why she all of a sudden started asking about death. Which is it's a bit lazy, right? Like, you should have a reason why she all of a sudden, got slightly disillusioned. And they also, like, do exposition. It's like breaking the fourth wall. And it's supposed to be clever, but it's not clever, and it's cheap. Like, well, I guess I'm supposed to go over here so I can further the plot. And, technically, it doesn't make any sense that I would be walking over here, but the plot has to move forward, so I'm going to do that. And so you put that into your movie. You have a character actually saying that. And it's supposed to be like that means it's self-aware, but it's still not a good plot. So I'm just saying the exposition is very artificial and cheap. We're at 20 minutes now. There hasn't been one funny joke yet. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. I'm just noting what I've noticed. So she goes to see Weird Barbie, and Weird Barbie pulls down all these diagrams and basically explains how the whole universe works. Which is kind of like the Death Star scene in the first Star Wars, where they show you, like, okay, we got to get to this is the weak point in the Death Star, where they just explain everything. And you can't really. I mean, any movie has to have a way of doing exposition. There's no way around it. So that's life. I don't really fault the movie for that. And then they steal a reference from the Matrix, where you can take the blue pill or the red pill. But instead, they're saying you can pick the high heel or the flat-footed sandal. And again, I don't really fault them because, I mean, it's just that movies have become so generic where, like, it's always, there's like, do you want to take this path? And then the main character has to say no at first, and then eventually they, they begrudgingly choose the path of the hero. Yeah, 25 minutes, they play Girls Just Want to Have Fun a second time, which I think is always a bad idea in a movie. You shouldn't play the same pop song twice. So structure-wise, we're seeing that it being a 2-hour, or what is it? Yeah, a 2-hour movie. We're seeing that it's exactly almost at the half-hour mark, 25 minutes, where she leaves the her home and goes on. She begins her adventure. Yeah, see, that's good pacing. Somebody like Rian Johnson, who I think is terrible at pacing, should notice something like this. So she's leaving the Barbie world and she's entering the real world at 30 minutes, quarter through the movie. That's when you do it. That's how you do it. That's how you do pacing. And I have one question that I'm obviously going to get the answer to is like, is this meant for children? Like, should children be allowed to watch this? And it was that beach off thing, beat off. Oh, I'm going to beat off. That joke that was like, well, that's, they could have just taken that out. It wasn't funny, you know? And then you could still say it's perfectly okay for kids to watch. Okay, so now that I think about it, okay, so Weird Barbie told Normal Barbie that the reason that Barbie's thinking about death is because her owner must be going through something. And I'm thinking, I'm thinking right now, wait a second. Every girl that owns a Barbie doll is going through something. Because real life is terrible. So there'd be no reason why every Barbie in Barbie Land wouldn't be freaking out all the time. Because their owners, the little girl that owns them, would always be freaking out too. Okay, so 36 minutes in, what I feared was going to happen is what happens. Will Ferrell, I wasn't sure whether it would be him. He's going to be like the owner of Mattel, I think. And I'm like, come on, he already played like, President Business in Lego Movie. This is just, he's playing the same character as he played in the Lego Movie. And it's adding to the feeling that they're ripping off the Lego Movie. 40 minutes into the movie, there hasn't been one joke that has been funny, which you cannot say about the Lego Movie, and you cannot say that about most Disney movies, like those Pixar movies. Those movies have really funny jokes. So I mean, don't try for cutesy and try to pretend that that's a joke. So now at 55 minutes, Barbie runs into, I think it's Rhea Perlman, the actress. And it really looks like when Neo met the Oracle in the first Matrix movie. I wouldn't be surprised if she's cooking like cookies in the oven or whatever. Okay, so she's like, "Who are you?" to Rhea Perlman, the old lady, and she's like, finally, she's like, "Ruth." And I'm like, okay, I bet that's the name of the woman that invented Barbie. Yeah, I looked it up. That's what it is. It's her name was Ruth Mariana Handler. Born 1916, died 2002. She's best known for inventing the Barbie doll. So now she's back in Barbie Land, and Ken basically, because of his experience in the real world, he has corrupted Barbie Land and made it a patriarchy. And I think it's a clever idea. That's the best part so far of this movie, is that idea that like Barbie Land was a matriarchy and the real world was a patriarchy, and then they have to reconcile the two. So that's pretty cool, and if they have a good way to resolve all of that, then it's a good movie. Okay, so Ken has taken over Barbie World, and they're all drinking. It's all men drinking beers, and I'm not sure that that's. Is that what men would? Is that what they would do if they run the world? Or they'd all be everybody be getting hammered, maybe. And then the first funny thing happened, which was all of the Mattel people are trying to get into Barbie Land, and in order to get into Barbie Land, the first part is you have to wear rollerblades. So you see all these businessmen on rollerblades. That was pretty funny. So maybe the second half of this movie is the good half. Yeah, so they're bringing up a really good question of like, would a matriarchy be better than a patriarchy? Because a friend of mine once told me that man descended from a certain type of ape, and it was a patriarchal ape. But we could have almost as easily have descended from a different ape called a bonobo, and they were a matriarchy, matriarchal society. And had they ended up becoming our foreparents, we would be a matriarchy, and everybody would be having more sex, and everybody would be more like matriarchy, and maybe everybody would be more happy, including men, because like every guy would be getting laid all the time. And I guess the Barbie movie, the Barbie theme is it might be perfect for this question, to address this question, at least in the way they're doing it right now. Because as of now, an hour and 4 minutes, halfway through the movie, or more than halfway, it's the best. It's as good as it's gotten so far. Maybe like a different writer took over at this point, because the first 45 minutes were pretty crap. But if that was just build up for the good parts, then that's fine as well. Or I should say, if it was just setting up this part, then that's fine, right? If it was just developing, setting the stage for this, then that's cool. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's getting much funnier, and the thing is, for the right wing to be like saying that this movie's like that. If anything, it's making men look good. Like, it's making you have sympathy for men, because it's kind of like, we all feel a little bit. At least I do. Like, you're not allowed to be masculine in this day and age. So, if anything, this movie is showing sympathy for that. And if anything, Ken is more of a standout character who develops more so than the Barbie character. So yeah, so far I'm just thinking that the first half of this movie needed to be tightened, and it needed to like remove that awful joke about beach. You want to beach off? I'll beat you off. Get rid of that. Get rid of some of that like Lego wannabe copy stuff from the beginning. Because really the first hour was the worst. And it didn't have to be. It could have. It didn't have to be. There was no way it was going to be eventful. But you could have just made it more generic, or like, if it's going to be just build up, then take out those cheesy jokes. If this wasn't a big budget movie, a lot of people would have quit by the first hour, because the good part really starts after the first hour. We're still not done. It might not end well, but right now it's very much at a high point. Very climactic, very much like, okay, what the hell's going to happen? Will men and women reconcile, or are the men going to go back to being subservient, or are women, it's all up in the air. I mean, I guess if I was writing this, just like offhand, I would just say, my prediction would be that at the end it should be like, they'll call it Barbie and Ken Land instead of just Barbie Land. And so they learn to get along with each other. But I imagine it'll be... I don't imagine it's going to be that satisfying. It's hard to... How do you resolve this? I'm not sure. But that's how you know it's a good movie, because you're like curious about... I don't know how I would do this. How would I end this story? I'll give a prediction. I don't think that there can be a very good ending, just because it's too complicated. Like, they've made a bit of a deep, like not philosophical, but more like sociological question, and I don't know if they're able to answer it, because I can't really answer it. Yeah, but if this movie keeps going the way it's going, this movie's going to be studied in universities in terms of like gender and that sort of thing. I'm not even sure what you call it, like patriarchy over matriarchy, women, feminism, blah, blah, blah. It'll be a major topic for years to come. The key thing I would add is that this movie makes women look just as bad as men. So I don't know what any man would be thinking in terms of complaining about this. Yeah, and this is the furthest thing from an anti-man movie. And it would have every right to be an anti-man movie, because it's the Barbie movie. It would have every right to trash men. But it's actually being very, very level and even in the treatment of women and men. So 3/4 through the movie, the Barbies have a plan, which is to make the Kens fight against each other by, like, flirting with different Kens and making other Kens jealous. Which is absolutely a very good plan. So I think the Kens are going to go to war with the Kens right now. That's what I'm expecting. And I shed some tears a bit in the last 20 minutes of the movie. Just over like, why does it have to be so difficult? You know, like for men and women to get along, really. But that's a good sign. Like it's a pretty damn good movie. 20 minutes left. So I guess I would just say that the first hour was like a C minus, and then the second hour was like an A plus. So the overall thing would be like A or A minus. And I rate this like in terms of like what I expect from a commercial movie. It's not one of the top 10 movies I've ever seen. It's not one of the top. It might be one of the top 100 movies I've ever seen, actually. But this is just like I just literally finished watching it like 20 seconds ago. So there you go. Oppenheimer next. Okay, here's my review of Oppenheimer. I watched the first half hour. I hate it. I'm not going to watch it. So there you go. The problem is I just know what Christopher Nolan is doing, right? And it's just not an interesting story. I mean, you can just watch the history of what Oppenheimer did. And it's a very tired, it's not a question I'm very interested in indulging in. Like, should man have the fire that Prometheus gave us? Are we responsible enough? Can we handle technology? I don't know. I don't care. I do care, but this is not the place to ask that question. And it's just like, I watched 35 minutes of it. It's just like a lot of black and white, back and forth. And I really hate Christopher Nolan's style.
If you support gays, click like. If you respect blacks, comment. If you think women are people too, click the notification bell. And if you care about sick children, subscribe.